From the 12 candidates at that time that decided to run on the last election, I was the only one that didn't have to go to a second round. And I was the one that won with over 5,600 votes, more than our mayor, Gracie Fraga. No matter who's the mayor, who is there as a council member, I'm going to fight that things are going to be done in the right way, including the manager. But you do it because you have the conviction that to do the right thing and to make sure that the budget, it is proper, for all the taxpayers, and that it is administered in an honest and transparent way.
Yes. So now that I understand it, but I was like, wait a minute. So now that I understand it, should we see a future candidate for mayor in you here? Welcome to episode 23 of Building Connections Doral Talks, the podcast that brings the heart and soul of Doral, Florida directly to you. I'm your host, Betty Gonzalez, and it is my pleasure to guide you through the stories, insights, and expertise that make our community truly unique. Today, we have the honor of welcoming a very special guest, Councilwoman Digna Cabral, whose influence and initiative are at the forefront of our community's development and prosperity. Together, we'll delve into her remarkable journey, the impact of her work in our city, and the vision that she carries for the future of Doral. Whether you are a longtime resident, a new member of our community, or someone interested in the dynamic landscape of Doral, we are in the right place. Sit back, relax, and let's build connections that matter right here in Building Connections Doral Talks. Good morning, Digna, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much, Betty, for the invitation. I really appreciate that you have given me the opportunity to reach out so many of your followers and to be able for them to know a little bit more about me.
No, this is great. I mean, I know you personally. You are a great human being. I've seen what you've done in the city of Doral, and I truly admire you personally. But going through your bio, it really, I was like, took me back, and I was like, oh my goodness, Digna, she is such una cajita de sorpresa, right? You have everything in there. So and I want to start off by asking you, so where are you from? What got you right here? Like, what brought you to Miami, especially in Doral? And what got you into, I know that you are a councilwoman, but you are actually the health business industry. What got you into the health business?
Well, first of all, you said that you admire me, but I do admire you for your service.
Oh,
I don't know if so many know what you have given to our country and your family too. So thank you so much for your vocation of service and for everything that you have sacrificed, and your family as well, to keep us safe. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your support, Digna. That means a lot.
And I moved from Dominican Republic. I'm gonna go a little bit more back.
Okay.
So I moved from Dominican Republic on 2001, just a few months before September 11 to New York. So you can imagine when all of that happened, that tragedy that impacted not just New York, not just families that were living there, but the entire world. It changed really the dynamic, as you know, of the world, of how we were seen and managing our safety in our country. So by that time, in 2002, I started working in Columbia University. And one of the things that opened the doors, and this is something that I always tell the kids when I go, and young adults, when I go to the schools or I go to colleges, that I tell them, listen, it doesn't matter from where you come from, education will always open doors for everybody. So education is key. I always say, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Sometimes you can lose everything, but everything that you have learned stays with you until the time that God will call you to see him. So this is something that my grandfather and my parents always said. And, going to the Dominican Republic, education is much more difficult in the sense that it's not like here in the United States that there's so many programs, so many opportunities, scholarships, grants, things that in our countries, unfortunately, doesn't exist. But I'm very grateful that my parents always say, our inheritance, it will be your education. And thanks to God, thanks to that, I was able then to be hired by a great institution, an Ivy League school, and they opened the doors. And one thing that also helped me a lot is that I am bilingual. So by being bilingual, even though my English at that time was a little bit much more limited when I moved,
Was not very good looking, like Celia Cruz said?
como Celia Cruz, yes, a little bit. A little bit. So yes, and also, I was always very open minded to work, not just go by the job description. I will always do a little bit more. And by, an employer and some of the professors seeing that you always were there, no matter what, to say, okay, I want to learn, teach me, stay a little bit over time. So you could learn more. It was something that helped me a lot in learning a little bit more. So then from there, I stayed there for almost 7 years. And by doing different rotations, I actually went and did a master during the weekend. So at that time when I moved, I was expecting my second child in 2001. And it was difficult to find job, because every time I would go to an interview, they would look at me. And for them, I know that they will say, oh, you will be out, for maternity leave
Right.
and all of that. Something that is unfortunate, because when you are expecting after you give birth, you are going to be very committed as an employee because you need to actually feed that child. But yes, so that's something
that way. Yeah.
No, they don't. And I hope that society would change and understand that will not limit for someone to be a great employee. So then after that, who I ended working with, who was the director of the stroke department, Dr. Ralph Sacco, that unfortunately he passed away last year around February. And he was offered a position here at in Jackson as the chairman of neurology. So by that time, he only asked 5 members of the team if we wanted to move down to Florida. And sure, I didn't have any family. It was just me, my husband, and my 2 kids by that time, because I have 3. And it was, just to explore. At that time, our best friend, like I tell everybody, was him, Dr. Rondek, and the GPS. That was, at that time, our best friends. And actually, when I asked at that time, what would be a good place to raise family and a great city. And the administrator at that time, that she was with UN for around 30 years, she told me, Digna, I can recommend you, there's an area in Kendall, an area in Coral Gables, and Doral. So at that time, we actually decided, let's just look into the addresses of the schools, and we went and drive around. So when we got to Doral, that now, sure, I know that at 58th Street, it took us to EBT, to Gina B. Thomas School. Uh-huh. When we got there around, we saw people, with walking, doing exercise, with a stroller with their kids. And we felt so much that sense of community compared to the other cities that we said, this is the place. This is where we have to look for a place. So actually at that time, we actually we moved within in 2 months. We prepare everything because I wanted at that time for my kids to start school on the initial time that school started, different from New York. So I have to rush everything because in New York is September, so we have to do everything in a rush. But I started working at the University of Miami right away. We actually arrived August 11, and I started working August 15. So August 15 wow. of this year is going to be 17 years wow. that I'm working at UM. That is a blessing. And 17 years on August 11 at the City of Doral. The city actually
so you said 17 years at UM, and how many years in Doral?
17 too, in August 11, because we arrived August 11.
I'm going for you to tell me. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we arrived August 11, and then August 15 right away, I started working.
All right. Okay. So,
Yeah.
but okay. In the city of Doral, living in the city of Doral. Okay.
Yes.
I can't wait for you to fast forward and tell me how you got involved with Doral and all of this stuff. So I'll let
Yeah,
you.
with that, I actually at that time I could do many things remotely at that time because I was doing a lot of data analysis. So knowing a little bit of my background, I actually am a neuroscientist. So what I focus is in research or prevention cardiovascular disease, and specifically stroke. I have around 45 medical publications in medical journals, and I have 2 book chapters in 2 text medical books. I am one of the few that know how to do transcranial Doppler and other modalities that are used more in Europe. I am the first Latina to be the former chair of the American Institute of Ultrasound Medicine on the Neurosonology Committee for 6 years. So we are the ones that dictate the protocol that the hospitals have to follow when they're going to do a transcranial Doppler, carotid ultrasound, or many other parts of the body. But my concentration is in neurosonology. So everything that has to do with the brain.
So now that you're saying that, so I know that your efforts led you to the large, like a state issue allocation in the history of the stroke registry in Florida. So can you tell us a little bit more what this achievement is, the impact on the healthcare quality in Florida, and what led you to this initiative?
Well, the stroke registry, when we moved down from New York, we noticed that there was not a protocol in place that will help to minimize later on the percentage of disability on someone that is having a stroke. So that's when Dr. Sacco and us, the team, and actually right now, the fire department in Miami-Dade, they're going around in different courses for CPR where they are actually educating the community on how to identify the signs and signals of someone having a stroke. So we actually were the ones who also that organized, and we have around 82 hospitals, including Puerto Rico, that thanks to a grant support from the state, that actually when I got elected, I was able to advocate even more. And right now we just got approved $1.5 million where we keep educating the community and also the hospitals so they can keep and understand, and they will be able to treat and identify right away. As soon as you make the 911 call, they will know as soon the ambulance will come and pick you up and to take you to the hospital, because there's one medication that has to be administered within 3 to 4 hours to a patient that already have the signs of having a stroke, that it will help, let's say, to liquefy the blood. So it will actually help for that area of the brain that is not receiving oxygen to receive oxygen.
And therefore prevent for more like after side effects.
Yes, to have this ability, because when that area of the brain doesn't get enough oxygen, those cells will die. And by that area then, not receiving the blood flow with oxygen, it will actually give a disability. So as you know, the brain, and just adding this, the right side actually is down. It is really, the signal comes from the left side. So from the opposite side of the brain is the one that really manages the other side of the body. So we're very grateful that the state and the legislator on state level, the Senate, and also the state representative has understand and have supported this initiative, that Dr. Sacco was the one who led it with a team, Dr. Romano, Dr. Rundek, I involved Dr. Wright, that we were the ones who being, and Dr. Koch. So it is a team, but it was everything with the leadership of Dr. Sacco.
Oh, that's excellent. And Digna, could you tell us a little bit of some of this, since you mentioned it, like some of the signs, so our listeners, if something is happening to them at the house. So what are some of the signs, like they call 911 and they will know exactly what to say?
Well, one of them, it will be that they will have weakness on one side of their body, either their arm, sometimes the leg, or sometimes it's a combination of both, the arm and the leg on one side. Another sign, it will be also that they will start talking like slur. And with this one, the patient that is having a conversation, doesn't notice. The person that noticed that this is happening or that they're talking funny, like some people say, is the person that is listening. Because at that moment, your brain is not really registering that you are not talking in the proper way. But the person that is listening to you is the one that noticed that. Also, another sign is that your face will be drip, one side of your face, either your eye or a hair around your mouth. It will drip one side, and that will be also another sign that something is happening to you. There are also people that they actually encounter strong headaches, something that they have not had on a normal base. And with this one, you have to be careful because there are people who say, oh, you know what? I just need to rest. I just gonna go to sleep, and not understanding that really that's also one of the signs of having a stroke.
So if they do go to sleep, is that dangerous?
Yes, because the thing is that when you go to sleep, by falling asleep, you're not understanding and you are not going to be able to see the other signs like the weakness, from one side of your body. And so you can right away call 911 or go to the closest emergency or urgent care.
Gotcha. No, this is pretty interesting. Thank you so much. Now I learned. Hopefully I never have to call 911 for a situation like this, but it's always good to know because you never know.
Yes.
Okay. So I continue because you just got to the healthcare. So that's how. So, but you didn't tell me, how do you get into the health industry? You started going to school, like somebody in your family inspired you to do this, and it's just something that happened. What got you to like, you know what, I'm going to be a brain specialist?
Well, I can tell you that really when I was little, when I was a teenager, I really wanted to be a judge. So I really actually was accepted in law school. But the first semester that I was accepted in Dominican Republic, at that time, for you to become a judge, you have to be appointed by the president. And at that time, women were not given the opportunity to be judges. Mm-hmm. So when I actually realized that at that time there was not really equality when it comes to the workplace, then I decided, you know what, I like also science, I like to help people. And sure, also one of the careers of going into law is also to help people because you're trying to make better laws and to bring justice to the community. So then not even starting the first semester right away, that is the basic semester where you just do history, math, and all of that. Then I went into medical school. So I know that's there will be many people say, well, from history, going into it. But I always say, look how God, guide you in a way. I am in science. I did not, become a judge, but right now I'm legislating in my community. Exactly. So I am involved in law in one way or the other. So it is, how God really turns things. So I know that you asked me about my part of service. So I can tell you that service is something that is being impregnated in me since I'm very young. Seeing my grandmother, especially my grandmother, from my paternal side, maternal side, both of them in Dominican Republic, they were always helping people. Every time they saw that someone, needed food, needed clothing, something, they will always try to help someone in need. My mom, by the other side as well, and my dad. So by seeing that, I always knew that was always the right thing to do. Also, sure, with my religious belief, also, it is always taught that you have to help others without expecting nothing in return. So this is something that I also, as you know, I'm also a CCD teacher on Sunday. So I've been teaching in Doral for the past 16 years in Our Lady of Guadalupe. So I prepare the kids for confirmation and first communion.
How do you find time to do all of this? I mean, you do, you were like the PTA in Dr. Rolando Espinosa. You were the president of the PTA over here in Tony Bilboa.
Yeah.
You were also in Doral Academy. And you're the Guadalupe. It's like, when does she have time to do all of this stuff?
No, I think that, when you are very organized with your time and you keep a very strict calendar, and also you have your family involved, because I could never done none of this without having also my family. I mean, my kids, they volunteer in the church. My kids also, when they were going to the school, because I could do some things remotely, then I decided at that time, so I can spend also more time with them, I'm going to volunteer the school. So that's actually how I decided to be involved in the PTA. And by understanding the dynamics, learning more, on the county PTA level, on the state level, that actually I was the first one that got involved on the state PTA from Miami-Dade. It was a great experience. You learn so much when it comes, to raise funds, to support different programs at the school, to support teachers that sometimes the budget doesn't allow them to do, let's say, STEM, science, and other things that cost a lot, like to buy microscope. And that's why I decided, we have to get involved. And I always encourage everybody, let's try to be involved, because even if you give half an hour a month, you make a difference in your community. So that's how I started my volunteer. And then I checked and I saw that there was different committees at the city, at our city. There's different committees. And there was one in particular that was parking police for kids. And I said, this is go with me, because I spent almost 7 days a week at the park, because at that time, my kids were very involved in sports. So my son actually was doing basketball, baseball, and football. And my daughter was doing basketball. At that time, there were very few girls. Actually, there was only 4 girls at that time. We're talking 2008, 2009. That's how I met our commissioner, JC Bermudez, because his daughter was one of the 4 girls. I also met our lieutenant governor, Janet Nunez, because her daughter was one of the 4 too that was there. Well, at that time when she decided to run for state on the first time, I was one of the moms that were helping to get signatures for her to be able to be registered and run. So I know her, our lieutenant governor, since then, because she's also a Doral resident. And I'm very proud of her for everything that she has been working in our state.
That is like, you just hear the connections, just for something, just to get involved. Just you wanted to go to the school, then the parks, then you get to know each other. And that's how communities are built.
Correct.
When you go out, when you intermingle, when you show interest, because had you not shown interest to do any of this, that would have never happened. That connection would have never happened. Sometimes you just need to get out of your house.
Correct. No, it is. And let me tell you, and I'm going to again mention my grandfather, that my grandfather actually always said, it has more value, someone that than having money, and because sometimes there's things that you will only get, not just things that will benefit you, but having that like you said, that community engagement only by knowing people. It doesn't matter how much money you have, if to build relationships of people that truly care. Like in our case of our family, when we moved here, we didn't know anybody. We didn't have any family. But now I can tell you, Betty, that I have friends and have built those relationships that I can tell you that I have so many family members, not blood related, but not everybody has to be blood related.
Well, what they say, friends are the family that we choose.
Exactly.
And that they choose us.
Correct.
Yeah,
it's like
yes, go ahead.
It's like you and I mean, we met in an event and we started talking. It was someone that we have a friend in common invited us that night, and we started talking, and that's how I knew about you, your family, your background, everything that you have done for our country. Then you know a little bit about me. And it's like you said, I mean, you have to go out, and us human beings, we are built to be within a society. And that's also another thing that we're teaching our kids. You have to build relationships. Nowadays, as parents, we know that most of the time the kids are within their phones, with their tablet, but it's so need that human contact to have, that day-to-day contact with someone. It is completely, I mean, it's a different experience that when you are even in Zoom, it's different than when you're sitting down, having a cafecito, having a tea, or sharing, I don't know, a breakfast, a lunch. that human contact, it is.
Yeah, because we are energy. We are energy, and it could be
Right.
positive, it could be negative, it could be neutral. But once you in a room, it's just like a third person arrive. Once two minds are talking, ideas form that otherwise, were you by yourself, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You know? And even though I know you, you know me, like just by having this conversation right now, we're knowing a little bit about each other a little bit more, right? In a different way. And that's the same thing that when we met in person. Now we laugh together, we make jokes, we get serious, like, oh really?
Yes.
But Digna, I want to know, you told us about, your transition from Dominican Republic to New York, and then to come back, and then you ended up here in Miami. But not only in Miami, you chose Doral, right? Or Doral drove you here.
Yes.
So, and I see how you met Jay Bermudez, right?
Yes. Our commissioner, yes.
How did you decided to say, you know what, I want to get involved? Did he approach you? Did you approach? How did that work out? Because I know you're councilwoman now, but you have been involved in the government. Tell us, way back before this time.
Yes, no, and that's something that I always say, there are people that were like, oh, Digna, you're Dominican. Majority of the people that live in Doral are from Venezuela, they are Colombian. We have a lot of Brazilians too. Yes. And I said, and sure, Cuban, definitely. And I said, it's not for where you come from, is what you have been giving back to the community. And that was something actually that our commissioner, J.C. Bermudez, was saying, because at that time when I decided to run, one person that was running with me, Cuban American, like him, Cuban American. And many people will ask him, why are you supporting the Dominican and not the Cuban American? You are a Cuban American. And he said, has nothing to do from what country you're coming. I see how much Digna has given to the community, and that for me is the most important thing, because I live here in the city too. So I want that someone that is going to be an elected official understand, the basic of when it comes to service. And really, our position in the city, we just have a very small salary, and it's $18,000 a year. That there are people that they think that we get a salary that we can actually live our career and just live off it. No, we got a stipend. So it's not enough, to be able for you to pay your bills, but you do it because you have the conviction that to do the right thing and to make sure that the budget, it is proper, for all the taxpayers, and that it is administered in an honest and transparent way. So at that time, actually, I met JC, but we didn't have a relationship. We say hello, goodbye. Then I saw in 2016 that things were not being run the right way. So at that time, I saw that there was a lot of rezoning. I saw that there was nonstop constructions. The density went, that didn't make sense to me. So I said, you know what, either I get involved or I move. Mm-hmm. So at that time I said, I'm going to get involved. So actually, when I decided to run, JC, not even, I didn't contact anybody. I just went to City Hall and I asked, what is the information? Can you give me information to the city clerk that we still have her in our city? That she's a great person. And she said, oh, these are the documents that you need to file. And I said, oh, this is it? And she said, yes. So one of the requirements is that you have to live at least 2 years at the city. By that time already was almost 10 years that I lived in the city. So I said, okay. So I just fill out my forms and everything, gave my driver's license. And that's how it went. And it was just 4 months before election. I had not even had a budget. I not even knew, how to get, in touch with, corporate businesses and all of this to get support. So I actually run with $7,000 and $6,000 that I put from my pocket. So with $13,000 is that I decided to run by that time. And then the first time that I ran, I was against the incumbent. And it was really difficult because the incumbent actually spent over $100,000, and I just had $13,000. And this was my first time, but still, let me tell you that my numbers were pretty good. And because I knock on doors, I talk to people, and people really could identify, the work that I have done. Then after that, on 2017, then the commissioner, at that time, he actually was elected as, he came back as mayor. Then that's when he did ask me at that time, hey, do you planning to run again? Because we really need good people. And I wanted you to please to make the decision, because I will not support anybody until you make the decision. So on 2018, then I said, okay, let's run again. And at that time, I'm very grateful that the community gave me the opportunity, and I won with almost 63% of the votes.
Yes.
And and then after that, I was reelected again. So this is my second term, and this is the last term, in the sense that in the city we have 2 terms of 4 years, and now I won also with almost 67%.
Yeah, I saw it. I mean, the Doral loves you. The community knows you.
No, and I love my community.
Yeah,
and they know that.
It wasn't like by a little percentage. You won by
No, and they know that I will do anything for my community. I know that even some of my colleagues in the hospital ask me, what are you doing there? Because they know that it's difficult. It's many hours that you have to give to the community, even though the position in the community should be a part-time, but it doesn't end to be a part-time, because you are also on the weekends, nights, you're there.
Yes.
It's, but for me, more than anything, is that I really value our taxpayers, because I know that for our residents to be able to pay their taxes, they have to work and they have to be away from their family and for the things that they really enjoy. And I said really enjoy, because I hope that everybody that goes to work enjoy what they're doing. But still, you have to pay those dues in order for us to manage and to give the service that you deserve as a resident. And for me, that has an extremely value. And that's why everybody knows that when it comes to that, I'm going to fight for that. No matter who's the mayor, who is there as a council member, I'm going to fight that things are going to be done in the right way, including the manager. So I understand that certain things are not said out there because are internal, like in many companies, that people just see what is out there, but sometimes they don't understand the dynamics of what is going on internally. I love to work more internally. You're going to see me in a few events and all of that, but for me, I'm not here for the events. I'm not here to be honored. Sometimes there are people, Digna, we want to recognize you. And I said, that's okay. I don't need to be recognized. And I do appreciate, because I know that they do it from the good of their heart, and they really value, the hours and the time that I'm giving. But for me, it's more to make sure that things are being done correctly. And I can tell you that's something that the community see. I actually, from the 12 candidates at that time that decided to run on the last election, I was the only one that didn't have to go to a second round. And I was the one that won with over 5,600 votes, more than our Mayor Gracie Fraga.
Right, I do know that. I mean, because I was following it very closely. I was like, I wonder, because as you know, I'm new. Since 2020, that's when I decided to move to Doral. And let me tell you, back when I was in the military and I was contemplating to retire, I was like, I wanted to retire in Miami, but I also didn't know which city. And Doral, I was always drawn to Doral. And I remember at that time, that was 2015, 2016, they were building the downtown Doral. Mm-hmm. And I was like, a lot of stuff is happening there. And I was telling my husband, and we went to come and see some of the new constructions. He's like, no, and we didn't buy that time. We bought back near the zoo. Nice. But anyway, so fast forward, we sold the house. I was last stationed in Alabama. And then coming back, my husband received an opportunity to work in Southcom. And I was like, you're not commuting. We're going to move to Doral. And that's the place I wanted to move anyway. Yes. Like, a few years ago. And that's how we ended up here. And I need to tell you, I just love it.
I am
I
so
love it. And then I made you run away. And I was like, this is a sign I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here. No, for real. And I just love the whole thing. And I'm thinking, is there anything? Because this is building connections at Doral Talks. Okay. So people are welcome to come. I said, this is your voice, our community. This is for people to hear what you have to say. Is there anything that you want to say to the Doral community?
Well, what I wanted to say is that regardless, if I'm in office or not, I always going to be here serving my community one way or the other. And I, more than anything, is that I want others to be involved. We need good people to be involved. I do understand that sometimes in politics, you're like, oh, it's so dirty. People start talking, bad things about you. They start lying. That unfortunately, we see that a lot. But that should not discourage people to run. Because if we don't decide to run, to do the right thing and to protect our community, then we're going to allow other people that have their own agendas to make the decisions for us and for the future of our kids. So that's something that I can tell you, that the decisions that I make sometimes are not popular, but I'm going to tell you that are the right ones. And the decisions that I will make, I'm going to make sure that it will reflect and will affect us, and not affect, to be able to bring us what we as a community deserve, not just on the near future, but in the far future, because the decisions that are made can affect us in either timeline. So it is really important that the people in my community understand that I will always be here, no matter what. I'm an open book. So any questions that you may have, you can reach me at any time. I will answer within my best knowledge, but I can assure you that I always will be transparent. And sometimes they're difficult decisions that we have to make. And sometimes there are people there that are going to try to misinform and mislead the community because they're bringing their own agenda. And I'm always going to fight against that.
Well, well said, Digna. Well, I have a question for you. You said that maybe because I don't understand politics that much, I understand a little bit, but not the whole spectrum. You said that you can only serve 2 terms of 4 years?
Correct. And the position, the vice mayor position, is rotated among the 4 council members. So each of us have the opportunity to be the vice mayor for 1 year. For example, I become the vice mayor on 2025 to 2026. I already was the former vice mayor before, and it's a great experience because when the mayor is not available, you will be the spokesperson, and you will also represent in events, even those, us as a council members also have sometimes the opportunity. So that's the type of government. But the type of government that we have is what we call a hybrid, because it is a council manager type of government, in the sense that even we have the mayor, everything goes by majority of the votes. So it's not like sometimes in our countries in Latin America that you have the mayor, or other municipalities that also have what is called a strong mayor, because the strong mayor is also the one that do the administration. So in our case, we have what is called a weak mayor, that let's say the mayors vote for something no, but majority of the council says yes. It goes by the majority. And I think that that's the best way of having type of government, because it is much more democratic.
It strikes a balance.
It is much more democratic. Yes, you have 5 individuals that are thinking majority of the time are in an individual way, and they can bring a different perspective, different questions. And it's also great that we have in our council a type of different members that have different backgrounds. So having that also, it gives a different perspective, on why things, and also many different ordinance or resolutions that we can implement in our community to make it much better.
And we have something different here in Doral. Like the majority of the leadership in Doral are females.
Yes.
But even though they're females, you guys represent a very well-rounded background as far as where you come from. And I know you're a very busy lady, and I'm going to let you go real quick. But before I do that, I really have to ask you, because the reason I asked you about the 4-year term, does that include being a mayor?
No. Do you? Well, I mean, yes, the mayor position is also 2 terms of 4 years. But let's say if I, as a councilwoman, I can decide and I can run for mayor.
Okay, so those are different. Those 8 years there are different than if you run for mayor. Okay, so now that I understand it, but I was like, wait a minute. So now that I understand it, should we see a future candidate for mayor in you here?
Well, I always say when I decided to run, I never, thought about government to run, or be within that type of or level of service. My family, no one in my family has never been involved in politics, neither from my mom's side or my dad, so maternal, paternal. So I am the first one in my family that decided. And like I explained to you, I decided because of my commitment to service. So is where God wants to take me, then I will be there to serve him.
So what is God telling you?
Well, let's see.
Okay, well, I'm going to be asking you.
We'll have to work a few things, and then from there, we will see where God wants to lead me.
Well, we want to see you. We want to see you in government in our community, because who's better to lead us than people that have already been leading us and know exactly what happened, and they know exactly what have been set out in your term or what's going to continue to happen to make sure that those things happen. So if you've already been leading us in the right path, why not continue? So if you need a push from God, well, God is telling me to tell you that you should run.
Thank you,
okay, Digna, well, thank you so much for your time. You've been very generous. Guys, you heard it from the lady. Listen to what she's saying. She knows what she's doing. She's been in the community for 17 years. If you know Doral is a young city. So she's been here the majority of the time, making changes, seeing it grow. So she knows. Is anything, where do people can contact you, Digna, like if they want to get a hold of you?
Well, if they want to email me, my email from the city is digna.cabral, that's my last name, at cityofdoral.com. And if they go to the City of Doral website, they will be able to see it there. Also, the best way to reach out to me, I'm going to give you my phone number. That is 305-747-8841. The number again is 305-747-8841.
And Digna, you say you have some paragraph in some books. Do you remember the name of the books that you like to share?
Well, these are medical textbooks, and I will be able, medical textbooks, and I will be able to share with you, but has to do with when it comes to cardiology and also has to do with stroke.
Well, thank you so much for your service, for both in the medical field and the community. And I hope to see more of you, Digna. Thank you so much. And hopefully you can come back to the show.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you so much for the invitation. And my regards to everybody that is also part of your show, that follows you, that is informed, that you, through this, you're opening a window for people like me to be able to be known and to have a voice. So Betty, God bless you, your family. Again, thank you for all the sacrifice, because that's the ultimate sacrifice that someone can do, that is giving their lives for people that they not even know for this country. So thank you so much again, and that God bless you and bless your family, and God bless our city as well.
Likewise. Thank you, Digna. You guys heard it. Thank you for connecting in Doral and building connections. Doral Talks. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Real quick, calling all Doral professionals, entrepreneurs, and community influencers. Are you ready to showcase your business, share your knowledge and experience with our engaged audience? Building Connections Doral Talks invites you to become a guest speaker on our podcast. Share your unique perspectives and inspiring stories with our listeners. We believe in the power of your voice in shaping that conversations right here in Doral. Click the link below to submit your information and be part of our next episode. Join us in building connections, sharing knowledge, and growing together. Don't miss this opportunity to be a featured guest on Building Connections Doral Talks. Tune in, connect, Share and grow together with Building Connections Doral Talks, reshaping the way we engage with the diverse voices of Doral, one guest at a time. Doral Talks, your voice, our community. Click the link now on the show notes, the screen, or in the comments below, or just scan the QR code to submit your information as a guest. I hope to see you soon. See you in the next podcast. Bye.